In the heart of Moscow, in the shadow of the Kremlin, the threat was so great that Putin was forced to evacuate his own daughters to underground shelters in a matter of seconds. But what was it, right in the heart of Moscow, that terrified him so much? The Kremlin perimeter, military housing complexes, generals' quarters, nowhere is safe. Moscow police and the FSB are scanning millions of vehicles citywide, yet they don't even fully know who they're looking for. The dread inside the Kremlin runs so deep that the state's center of governance is effectively entering shutdown mode. On the morning of June 9th at 5:30 a.m., the latest concrete manifestation of that dread arrived. Ukraine's targets were not random names, but registered war criminals under the protection of the Kremlin itself. Now, this is going to be a controversial topic, and I don't care if YouTube doesn't promote it. I'm going to expose the truth anyways. Controversial topics like this one end up getting suppressed by the algorithm, except when you force the algorithm to promote it by clicking on the like button. Thank you. Just 30 kilometers from the Kremlin, in the military neighborhoods of Balashikha, a BMW X3 detonated. The man inside was the supply chief behind every round, every missile Russia sends to the front. And the blast site, less than 1 kilometer from where a general had been taken out by the exact same method 1 year earlier. And the full picture of what happened that morning is far more chilling than the headline. The man inside that BMW was Colonel Damir Davydov, supply chief of GRAU, the Russian Defense Ministry's main missile and artillery directorate. The device that ended his life was surgically precise, a shaped charge of approximately 400 grams TNT equivalent attached to the chassis with a magnet, channeling the energy into the driver's compartment rather than dispersing it outward. The investigative committee registered the cause as multiple injuries. The insider confirmed his identity, and emergency response teams were recorded using the name Damir on radio. Yet the most chilling part isn't the device itself, it's where it detonated. The Aviatorov neighborhood is not an ordinary residential area. It is a military settlement built by the Defense Ministry for its own personnel. Officers, retirees and their families live here, and these very streets sit less than 1 kilometer from the spot where Lieutenant General Yaroslav Moskalik was taken out by the exact same method in April 2025. Al Jazeera had reported the Moskalik operation as a homemade device detonating near his home. The Kremlin blamed Ukraine that day and announced that security measures have been increased. 14 months later, in the same neighborhood, 1 kilometer away, with the same technique, another colonel was taken out. This was not random violence, this was a surgical repetition. The FSB chiefs pledged that the security perimeter around senior officers has been strengthened, collapsed. This signals two realities. Either the operational cell remains active in the area and Russia cannot detect it, or Russia has failed to secure even a residential compound where its own military personnel live. And the day didn't end there. At the same hours, a second vehicle-borne device was found in southwestern Moscow. The target, a scientist, presumably with defense industry connections. The device was safely neutralized. No casualties. 2 young suspects were detained on charges of placing a GPS tracking device. Reuters reported both incidents together. 2 separate vehicle-borne devices in Moscow on the same day, hallmarks of a coordinated operation. And this coordinated pressure weighs on one person most of all, the man forced to retreat underground after every strike, Vladimir Putin. Putin's reactions to this systematic pressure reveal the scale of his fear through physical evidence. According to The Sun, Putin installed protective anti-drone nets across his palace, a system dubbed Spiderweb, against potential Ukrainian drone strikes. According to Financial Times sources, after claims that Israel tracked and targeted Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei through security cameras, Putin temporarily shut down all surveillance cameras around the Kremlin and had them inspected. Again, according to The Sun, he relocated his 2 daughters to the bunker palace. A Ukrainian hacker told the Financial Times, Kremlin cameras are still being compromised. Under Russian state security doctrine, every high-level targeted operation within the capital is assessed as the first link in a potential threat chain aimed at the head of state. The red zone procedure activates automatically. Putin and senior staff are required to withdraw to the Valdai complexes or Moscow's deep bunkers on suspicion of a second wave or coordinated coup attempt. If the leader of a self-declared nuclear superpower is sheltering underground in his own capital by his own protocols, this is not a protected leader. This is the portrait of a hunted target. The nickname Bunker Grandpa is no longer a joke. It has become the name of the Russian leadership's new way of life. Why Putin panicked becomes far more clear when you understand who the man he lost on June 9th actually was. Understanding who Davydov was reveals why this strike is a far deeper blow than a mere name change. GRAU, the main missile and artillery directorate, manages the procurement, inspection, and frontline distribution of all of Russia's missile and artillery munitions. Every round that detonates on the front line, every glide munition raining on Ukrainian cities, every Kalibr missile passes through this institution's logistics pipeline. Davydov was at the head of that pipeline. His loss is not just a name, it is a structural disruption in the flow of munitions to the front. This loss cannot be evaluated in isolation. It must be read alongside what happened 6 months earlier. In December 2025, Major General Faril Savarov, head of operational training, was taken out by the same method on Moscow's Yasenevo Street, 20 minutes from the Kremlin. Savarov was the architect of the curriculum that shaped how soldiers fight, how they treat civilians, and how they maintain order in occupied territories. The battlefield manifestations of war crimes under International Criminal Court investigation are assessed as products of his training doctrine. Put the two losses side by side. Savarov, head of the training chain, plus Davydov, head of the supply chain, equals the army's two core functions left without leadership. The man who taught how to fight is gone, and so is the man who supplied what to fight with. Security analysts' assessment is sharp. The target profile is shifting. It has moved from the command echelon to critical nodes of the logistics chain. The aim is not merely to eliminate one individual, but to deliver the message, you could be next, to every branch of the military. Every replacement will hear that metallic click with every order they sign. If you're finding this analysis valuable, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what comes next. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Back to the story. To understand how these operations are executed, look at the 21st century's most effective weapon, the digital footprint. According to the Sunday Guardian, Davydov's son, a military cadet, had shared a photograph showing the vehicle's license plate on social media. Plate to vehicle registration, to home address, to daily route to target. A selfie became a warrant for his father's end. The pattern is far broader. When a Russian officer opens a phone looted from the front at his Moscow home, orders food to his address via Yandex, or his bodyguard shares a running route on Strava, what time the general is on which route, when he enters his vehicle, which road he takes, can be relayed in real time. Structures capable of operationalizing this data exist. The Aviatorov Partisan network and Ross Partisan cells. They are not cinematic spies. Ordinary-looking people sitting next to you on the morning metro, standing behind you in the grocery line, Russian citizens or Crimean Tatars. Equipped with encrypted communication devices and crypto funds, these cells can attach that magnetic package to the vehicle identified by digital intelligence in seconds. One security expert's observation captures it. The adversary planted a device under your seat, and you don't even know who they are. Davydov is the latest link in this chain, but not the first. Map the geography and the pattern is unmistakable. In October 2025, Lieutenant Colonel Matsurin, one of the key figures in the Bucha operations, was targeted 3,200 kilometers from the war's ground zero, deep in Siberia. In July 2025, Major General Gudov and 9 of his staff officers were struck with pinpoint precision at their concealed headquarters in Kursk. By December 2025, the waves reached Moscow. December 22nd, Savarov, 20 minutes from the Kremlin. December 24th, Klimnov and Gorbanov in Yeletka, 17 kilometers from the Kremlin. February 2026, a police officer at Savyalovsky Station. Same month, a GRU official by armed assault. And June 9th, 2026, Davydov, 10 kilometers from the Kremlin. From Siberia, 3,200 kilometers, to Kursk, behind the front, to Moscow's streets, 20 minutes, to military neighborhood, 10 kilometers. Every operation a bit closer, every target in a slightly more critical position. Distance is narrowing, rank is rising, and the Kremlin's security perimeter appears breached a little more each time. The impact of this targeted strike chain does not stop at Moscow's streets. It extends to the front lines where 700,000 soldiers are deployed. Losses, fear, and indecision within the command echelon erode the coordination of units in the field. Training Chief Savarov is gone. Reinforcement units are being dispatched to the front with inadequate doctrine. Ammunition Chief Davydov is gone. Supply chain disruptions will be felt along the entire line. In General Keen's assessment, advantage and momentum have shifted entirely to the other side. Field data confirms this assessment. In 2026, Ukraine recaptured more than 600 square kilometers of territory, the first net Russian retreat since 2023. Russian lines are buckling on multiple fronts from Zaporizhia to Kupiansk. As the logistics collapse in Crimea deepens, units on the Kinburn Peninsula are abandoning their positions. When Finnish President Stubb announced the casualty ratio as 1:8, 8 Russians for every 1 Ukrainian, he was articulating a mathematical reality. No army can sustain combat at that rate for long. The morale dimension may outweigh the numbers. Russian soldiers on the front are already enduring brutal conditions, yet they also know the command structure behind them is being systematically dismantled. If the generals in the rear are not safe in their own homes, what is the frontline soldier fighting for? Surrendering Russian soldiers are telling Ukrainian drone operators. Our commanders send us on one-way assaults. They say they'll write us off if we refuse. This two-pronged pressure, Ukraine's technological edge from the front, the dissolution of their own command from the rear, may signal that the Russian army is entering one of the most severe trials in its history. Every targeted operation is a security breach, and someone must answer for it. The army points at the FSB. You can't protect our generals. The FSB points at the army. The leaks originate with you. This mutual blame is shaking Putin's already fragile balance of power. And the security in exchange for loyalty bargain, one of the regime's pillars, no longer holds. Where there is no security, loyalty evaporates fast. Oligarchs and bureaucrats are quietly mapping their own exit plans. The Leonov affair adds yet another layer. Reports emerged that Russian Air Force Commander Leonov fell from a window, unconfirmed, yet a disturbingly familiar pattern in Russia. The question is a two-door catastrophe. If Ukraine carried it out, operational access to Moscow exists. Security has collapsed. If it was an internal purge, the state is consuming itself. Auto-cannibalism has begun. The line that even Russian propagandists were forced to concede captures the scale of this fracture. Our generals are safer at home than on the front. Moscow's parking lots have become indistinguishable from the trenches of Donbass. How long can a regime that cannot protect its generals in its own capital sustain the claim of defending its borders? Davydov got into his car at 5:30 a.m. It was his last morning as ammunition supply chief. 1 kilometer away, 1 year earlier, another general had been taken out by the same technique. And every morning in Moscow, another senior official starts the day by looking under their vehicle. Fear is no longer one-sided. Its cold breath is felt in the corridors of the Kremlin. So what do you think about this? Share in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated on PPR Global's latest analyses. Thank you for choosing.